Welcome back. Let's return now to that ridiculous bail laws proposal I brought you earlier in the show. A report authored by officials from every Commonwealth, state and territory government is urging all jurisdictions to loosen their bail laws. Joining me now is Shadow Attorney General Andrew Wallace. Andrew, thanks for your time as always. What do you make of this report?
Thanks, Danica. Well, I haven't had a chance to read it. I don't even know whether it's been released publicly yet or not. I know that the Attorney General has been calling for it to be released. Look, this morning when the news hit the Australian, the news piece, I was just absolutely flabbergasted as to how, in goodness name, could a Commonwealth get this so wrong. The rest of the country, Australians across this country, are calling upon state and territory governments to strengthen bail laws. We've seen what happened in Queensland under the Labor government before David Crucifulli was elected. We're seeing live what's happening in Victoria now with the weakening of bail laws and how that has driven crime through the roof. And Australians across the country are calling out for their state and territory governments to get tougher on crime. And yet here's the Commonwealth government coming out and saying, oh, you know, we think you should loosen bail laws across the country. It makes absolutely no sense. And I'm sure that many Australians would be just dumbfounded.
Well, it's completely out of step with community expectations, in my view. And
absolutely.
The Australian was reporting today that this calls for a requirement that courts consider a person's status as an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander before making a bail decision. Why is it always about race-based politics, Andrew?
Well, look, I mean, it shouldn't be. The Greek god of Thesis is supposed to be blind, and it troubles me that we are treating people differently in the eyes of the law by virtue of the colour of their skin. Now, most Australians would recognise that our prisons are overpopulated from a population perspective with our Indigenous people. Nobody wants to see that. But at the end of the day, if people break the law, particularly those, whether you're white, black or brindle, if you break the law and if it's a serious violent offence, this kind of round table of, you know, in and straight back out onto the streets, if they don't suffer the consequences for their actions, well then people are just going to keep committing more and more crimes.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we shouldn't be divided by the colour of our skin. I want to ask you just quickly on net zero, Andrew. You must be pleased that the party's finally come to a position. Yeah,
Danica, we've been talking about this now for 6 months, and I've kept saying to you, please be patient. We'll get there in the end, and I want to thank people for their patience, because I know that this has been a challenging thing for many Conservative voters, but at the end of the day, the Liberal Party has decided that we will back Australian businesses, we will back mums and dads. We know that they are doing it incredibly tough. So we want to restore affordability and reliability as the number one factor that we've got to look at. Now, yes, we want to reduce emissions, of course we do, but we've got to restore affordability and reliability, and that's not what we've had under this Labor government. This Labor government has driven costs, increases in energy costs by around 40% in the last 3.5 years. That's on top of the cost of living crisis. And to boot, emissions reductions have flatlined. Under the coalition, when we were in government, not only were our energy prices lower, but so were our emissions.
Yeah, you're spot on. And look, I'm glad we finally got an answer to the question I ask you weekly on this show for the last 6 months. Andrew, I don't have to ask you about it again, so I'm sure that makes you very, very happy. Andrew Wallace, nice to see you as always. Thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks, Danica.
Authorised by Andrew Wallace, LNP, Boccarina, Queensland.